Polkadot to me reminds me of Cosmos, but then with a bigger market cap, and also on top of that, with more historical notoriety when compared to, again, something like Cosmos. Now, even though nothing I say is financial advice, what do I mean by this? If I take a look at Atom, which is the native token of Cosmos, the current market cap is around $1 billion. But then if I take a look at Polkadot, and its native token called DOT, market cap currently is around 3.6 billion. So again, we take a look at that, it's basically over 3 times bigger. Now, why am I even comparing Polkadot to Cosmos to begin with? Well, it's because we have to take a look at this blockchain space, right? We take a look at layer 1 blockchains, for instance, which a lot of people do know as being as something like Algorand, Ethereum, there's a bunch, right? We take a look at Solana, etc., etc. Again, there's a lot. And then we take a look at layer 2 blockchains, something like, for instance, Base, which is Coinbase's layer 2. That right there is an Ethereum layer 2. That's another example. Then we take a look at layer 3s. However, what hasn't really been talked about as of late, that was actually a pretty big conversation back in 2021, but not really talked about that much as of right now. That is something called layer 0 blockchains. And Polkadot, it's a layer 0. But then we take a look at Cosmos, it has an aspect of layer 0 as well. So then when I take a look at that, I think it is actually a pretty fair comparison in my perspective, even though, again, Cosmos historically hasn't been as popular as something like Polkadot, but at the same time, we have to consider kind of the adoption of Cosmos because, for instance, what are 2 very famous Cosmos-based blockchains? The first being BNB Chain, so that's pretty impressive, right? And then also on top of that, we take a look at something like Kronos. That's pretty massive right there. I mean, the ones that I just mentioned. But the thing is this, when it comes to, despite I think Cosmos having like more of that well-known sort of kind of, I guess, things regarding it, Polkadot just has, I think, more notoriety still despite that. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I think just Polkadot kind of was that sort of well-known layer 0 to kind of begin with, I guess. It was very popular back in 2021. I mean, Cosmos is also pretty popular even as of right now, but it hasn't really been able to eclipse, right, something like Polkadot for many, many years at this point, which, it is what it is. But at the same time, I kind of feel like, yes, sure, Atom has a way lower market cap than DOT as of right now, which some people may be thinking, okay, doesn't that hypothetically mean that if Atom goes to market cap of DOT as of right now, like its current market cap is currently over 3 times lower than that, so why would you care about a project that has a bigger market cap? Well, the thing is this, I care about Cosmos as well, but I also care about Polkadot, because I think DOT, just by nature, again, Polkadot's native token, just because the market cap is bigger, I kind of feel like it just has that established nature, but I also want to believe in something like Atom because the market cap is lower, but at the same time, it doesn't feel as established, right, Cosmos, when compared to Polkadot. So then at the same time, that is why I'm still a fan of both. But then again, Polkadot just kind of reminds me of Cosmos, but with a, bigger, I think, sort of level in terms of notoriety. However, when it comes to something like Moonbeam, which is on Polkadot, right? Because for instance, Moonbeam has kind of like the aspects of the power of Polkadot, but at the same time, it kind of has the ease of use of Ethereum. But then Moonbeam is nowhere near as popular as, of course, something like, Kronos or something like BNB Chain, which are Cosmos-based blockchains, whereas something like Moonbeam, which is on Polkadot, like it's not as well known as that, right? But still, even despite all that, the way you take a look at it is, when it comes to Polkadot and something like Cosmos, I just kind of view it as like sort of this Bitcoin and Ethereum type of example, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, and even though it's actually not a direct comparison, but I'm just saying, like, even though Bitcoin has a way bigger market cap than Ethereum, there are still some holders of Bitcoin, right? Or should I say a lot? But the thing is, there's also some of my friends out there that despite holding Bitcoin, they still hold Ethereum, because Ethereum just has a lower market cap. Some of my friends out there, they do sometimes want to look for a project that has a lower market cap than something that they already believe in. That could be the case sometimes. Who knows? That's just hypothetical, but I'm just saying. When it comes to something like me, for instance, I get it. Polkadot is more popular than something on Cosmos, but I still want to hold both just because, again, that kind of dynamic I mentioned before. Now, when it comes to Polkadot, it does have another competitor as well, arguably. I wouldn't really say it's a competitor in a sense where I think it's going to hypothetically overtake it, but something that's a little bit similar to it, some Axlar, for instance, but just again, Axlar, it's not even as well known as Cosmos, let alone some on Polkadot. But even besides that, I still do believe in Axlar as well, by the way. But even besides that, again, when it comes to what Polkadot is doing, people like to say, oh, layer zeros, people don't really care about that. But the thing is this, if Polkadot is aiming to connect blockchains together, and there's actually hypothetically more and more blockchains that seem to be popping up, why would that be such a bad thing for a project out there that is literally trying to connect blockchains together? If there's more of what it is trying to connect, how would that be a bad thing? I just don't get it. But even besides that as well, people like to say, oh, there's just too many sort of layers when it comes to these blockchains, like layer 0, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and all this. Yeah, I get it. I guess it is what it is. Like, for instance, when I take a look at the Fast and Furious movies, I lost count. I don't know how many movies there are when it comes to that. Like, I mean, do I know how many Jumanji movies are out there? Absolutely not. Like, I don't know. I watched them though, but I just don't know how many there are. So then when I take that analogy or that example, people like to say, oh, who really cares about layer zeros, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and all this? But then still, in each sort of layer, there are sort of popular projects within those layers, right? So then I just wanted to talk about this layer 0 aspect in this video. Now, when it comes to DOT, I mean, much like Atom, which is, of course, the native token of Cosmos, what I'm saying, Atom had a pretty okay recovery in the past 24 hours, around 6.5%, whereas something like DOT around actually nearly 12%, even despite having a bigger market cap. But the thing is this, in the grand scheme of things, we just saw DOT reach a new all-time low back in October, right? So, I mean, it's not like it's that significant in the grand scheme of things, but I like this step nonetheless, because personally, I will never be able to know when there's going to be an altcoin season during this cycle. I'm not going to be able to know if it ever even starts or not. But at the meantime, though, I do like what I'm seeing still, and I just don't think I've seen an altcoin season during this cycle. So personally, for me, I am still just waiting. I mean, no one is telling me to do that, and even if someone did tell me to do that, I am making, personally, a decision on my own, right? But even besides that, when I take a look at Polkadot, for instance, I mean, sure, when we take a look at the hypothetical idea of $50, it's still quite a ways away, of course, because we're currently around 22 times lower than that. But you know what? I'm just still waiting and just seeing what happens, because I still am a fan of the layer 0 space when it comes to blockchains. Also, I am still a fan of the aspect of interoperability, because I feel like, connecting blockchains together, why would I not care about that? That's my point of view. I treat what I'm seeing right now as like a roller coaster of sorts, I guess. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, but you know what? I'm just going to wait and see what happens. I'll wait until the ride, happens, but I'll wait and see. That's the way to take a look at it. And I just don't think I've seen an altcoin season, so how can I judge the roller coaster if I haven't finished riding the roller coaster? That's the way to take a look at it, even though I'm not telling you to do anything. But that's just my mentality. And I want to say thank you for watching. I hope you all have a nice day. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.